Hello everyone and welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Hello Necromancer, bonjour, good to see you. Thank you for the hi Radine. Hello Riptide, thank you for the lurkies. I know it's a bit late for you, so I hope you get to enjoy with a little bedtime story here. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're already almost done with the book. It feels like just a couple of days ago we started in on returning to Pooh Corner, and now here we are, what will likely be the final stream, for this book anyway. So I hope you've all been enjoying. Necromancer, a full-on hoot. Okay, you have my attention. What's going on? Everything okay? You've properly hydrated? Your posture is appropriate? Do you need a snack? What's on your mind? You just hooted because you want attention? Well, you've got attention. So. Okay, carry on. Well, alright. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I've got some on here somewhere. Yeah, okay. There we go. Carrying on, just like you'd like. No, but glad you're here, and I hope you're having a good time. In fact, why don't we get you a shout out while we are at it? What have you been up to lately, Necromancer? I feel like I haven't really gotten to see much other than I know you've been doing some Lunar, the sequel to Silver Star Story, but I don't remember what that one is for some reason. So what have you been playing on your streams? What have you been up to? Huh. Yeah, so for me, I'm just glad to be getting back into the swing of things. I know it's been really a little bit of a hectic time, and I hope that we get to enjoy our time here together. Once again, I know I'm always enjoying it. We are also live on YouTube. I don't see anybody in the chat there, so I'll try and keep peeking over every once in a while, but yeah. So this VOD will be available on YouTube as well, and yeah, that's about it from my administrative side. I'm not hearing any details from Necromancer here, so I am going to roll us right on into the story here. And if Necromancer replies, then so much the better. Chapter 7. Tigger is unbalanced. One day, Rabbit and Piglet were sitting outside Pooh's front door listening to Rabbit, and Pooh was sitting with them. It was a drowsy summer afternoon, and the forest was full of gentle sounds, which all seemed to be saying to Pooh, "Don't listen to Rabbit, listen to me." So he got into a comfortable position for not listening to Rabbit, and from time to time he opened his eyes to say, "Ah," and then closed them again to say, "True." And from time to time Rabbit said, "You see what I mean, Piglet?" very earnestly, and Piglet nodded earnestly to show that he did. Lunar's going to take a bit, as JRPGs do. You've got no other plans afterwards. You think you're going to take a week off in October to play horror games. Oh my goodness, that sounds like a frighteningly good time. In fact, said Rabbit, coming to the end of it at last, Tigger's getting so bouncy nowadays that it's time we taught him a lesson. Don't you think so, Piglet? Piglet said that Tigger was very bouncy, and that if they could think of a way of unbouncing him, it would be a very good idea. Just what I feel, said Rabbit. What do you say, Pooh? Pooh opened his eyes with a jerk and said, Extremely. Extremely what? What you were saying. Undoubtedly. Piglet gave Pooh a stiffening sort of nudge, and Pooh, who felt more and more that he was somewhere else, got up slowly and began to look for himself.
But how shall we do it?
Asked Piglet.
What sort of lesson, Rabbit?
That's the point, said Rabbit. The word lesson came back to Pooh as one he had heard before somewhere. There's a thing called twice times, he said.
Christopher Robin tried to teach it to me once, but it didn't.
Oh, what didn't?
Didn't what?
Pooh shook his head.
I don't know. It just didn't. What are we talking about? Pooh, haven't you been listening to what Rabbit was saying? I listened, but I had a small piece of fluff in my ear. Could you say it again, please, Rabbit?
Rabbit never minded saying things again, so he asked where he should begin from, and when Pooh had said from the moment the fluff got in his ear, and Rabbit had asked when that was, and Pooh said he didn't know because he hadn't heard properly, Piglet settled it all by saying that what they were trying to do was they were just trying to think of a way to get the bounces out of Tigger, because however much you liked him, you couldn't deny it, he did bounce.
Oh, I see,
said Pooh.
There's too much of him. That's what it comes to.
Pooh tried to think, and all he could think of was something which didn't help at all, so he hummed it very quietly to himself.
If Rabbit was bigger and fatter and stronger or bigger than Tigger. If Tigger was smaller than Rabbit's bad habit, Tigger's bad habit of bouncing it, Rabbit would matter no longer if Rabbit was taller.
What was Pooh saying? Any good?
No good.
Well, I've got an idea, and here it is. We take Tigger for a long explore, somewhere where he's never been, and we lose him there, and next morning we find him again, and, mark my words, he'll be a different Tigger altogether.
Why?
Because he'll be a humble Tigger, because he'll be a sad Tigger, a melancholy Tigger, a small and sorry Tigger, and, oh, Rabbit, am I glad to see you, Tigger? That's why.
Will he be glad to see me and Piglet too?
Of course.
Oh, that's good. I should hate to see him go on being sad,
said Piglet doubtfully.
Tiggers never go on being sad. They get over it with astonishing rapidity. I asked Owl just to make sure, and he said that's what they always get over it with. But if we can make Tigger feel small and sad just for 5 minutes, we shall have done a good deed.
Would Christopher Robin think so?
asked Piglet.
Yes, said Rabbit. He'd say, "You've done a good deed, Piglet. I would have done it myself, only I happened to be doing something else. Thank you, Piglet." And Pooh, of course.
Piglet felt very glad about this, and he saw at once that they were going to do to Tigger was a good thing to do, and as Pooh and Rabbit were doing it with him, it was a thing which even a very small animal could wake up in the morning and be comfortable about doing. So the only question was, where should they lose Tigger?
We'll take him to the North Pole, because it was a very long explore finding it, so it will be a very long explore for Tigger unfinding it again.
It was now Pooh's turn to feel very glad, because it was he who had first found the North Pole, and when they got there, Tigger would see a notice which said, "Discovered by Pooh. Pooh found it." And then Tigger would know, which perhaps he didn't know, the sort of bear Pooh was. That sort of bear. So it was arranged that they would start the next morning, and that Rabbit, who lived near Kangaroo and Tigger, should now go home and ask Tigger what he was doing tomorrow, because if he wasn't doing anything, what about coming for an explore and getting Pooh and Piglet to come too? And if Tigger said yes, that would be all right, and if he said no,
he won't. Leave it to me.
And Rabbit went off busily. The next day was quite a different day. Instead of being hot and sunny, it was cold and misty. Pooh didn't mind for himself, but when he thought of all the honeybees that wouldn't be making a cold and misty day, always made him feel sorry for them. He said so to Piglet when Piglet came to fetch him, and Piglet said that he wasn't thinking of that so much, but of how cold and miserable it would be getting lost all day and all night on top of the forest. But when he and Pooh had got to Rabbit's house, Rabbit said it was just the day for them, because Tigger always bounced on ahead of everybody, and as soon as he got out of sight, they would hurry away in the other direction, and he would never see them again.
Not never.
Well, not until we find him again, Piglet. Tomorrow, or whenever it is. Come on, he's waiting for us.
When they got to Kanga's house, they found that Roo was waiting too, being a great friend of Tigger's, which made it awkward.
But Rabbit whispered, "Leave this to me," behind his paw to Pooh, and went up to Kanga. "I don't think Roo had better come. Not today."
"Why not?" said Roo, who wasn't supposed to be listening.
"A nasty cold day,"
said Rabbit, shaking his head.
"And you were coughing this morning."
"How do you know?"
"Oh, Roo."
"Oh, Roo, you never told me," said Kanga reproachfully. "It was a biscuit cough, not one you tell about." "I think not today, dear. Another day." "Tomorrow?" "We'll see."
"You're always seeing, and nothing ever happens."
"Nobody should see on a day like this, Roo. I don't expect we shall get very far. And then this afternoon Tigger, there you are. Come on. Goodbye, Roo. This afternoon come on, Pooh, already? That's right, come on."
Kids are super good at listening when they shouldn't be. Absolutely. Although, really, why shouldn't the kids be listening? Naruto just dropping by to say hi. Well, hello, Naruto. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see you. So they went. At first, Pooh and Rabbit and Piglet walked together, and Tigger ran around them in circles. And then, when the path got narrower, Rabbit, Piglet, and Pooh walked one after another, and Tigger ran around them in oblongs. And by, when the gorse got very prickly on each side of the path, Tigger ran up and down in front of them, and sometimes he bounced into Rabbit, and sometimes he didn't. And as they got higher, the mist got thicker, so that Tigger kept disappearing. And then, when you thought he wasn't there he was again, saying,
"I say, come on!"
And before you could say anything, there he wasn't. Rabbit turned around and nudged Piglet.
"The next time, tell Pooh."
The next time,"
Piglet said to Pooh. "The next what?" said Pooh to Piglet. Tigger appeared suddenly, bounced into Rabbit, and disappeared again.
"Now,"
said Rabbit. He jumped into a hollow by the side of the path, and Pooh and Piglet jumped after him. They crouched in the bracken, listening. The forest was very silent when you stopped and listened to it. They could see nothing and hear nothing. Listening when adults don't want you to is how you learn adults' horrible secrets, like where they keep the Christmas presents. Oh, that is a rather horrible secret. You shouldn't be hiding things. Come now, we all know better than that. My goodness, who hides presents? What silliness. "Hush," said Rabbit. "I am," said Pooh. There was a pattering noise, then silence again. "Hello," said Tigger, and he sounded so close suddenly that Piglet would have jumped if Pooh hadn't accidentally been sitting on most of him. "Where are you?" called Tigger. Rabbit nudged Pooh, and Pooh looked about for Piglet to nudge, but couldn't find him, and Piglet went on breathing wet bracken as quietly as he could, and felt very brave and excited. Oh my goodness, where'd you hide the bodies in the middle of this suspense? Oh dear, true, let's not hide things? Well, alright. So, there was one particular time where we found that as I was flying on an airplane, there was one compartment that seemed like the latch was just a little bit too sticky. And in fact it was so sticky that even the flight attendant couldn't get it open. Now, I figured this would be a grand time, so I just waited until there was only one flight attendant left on board, and then said, "Oh dear, I seem to have gotten my bag stuck in this particular compartment." And the attendant did what attendants try to do, and with all the best effort tried to open it, and then hurried off in order to get something to pry it open with. Little did the attendant realize that I had already brought along something to open stubborn containers with. And so I just casually slipped it inside of there, put a little false back on the end, and, well, I don't think they'll ever know why the bags don't fit quite right, but it's an airplane. When do the bags ever fit right? Rabbit nudged Pooh, and Pooh looked about for Piglet to nudge, but he couldn't find him, and Piglet went on breathing wet bracken as quietly as he could, and felt very brave and excited.
"That's funny,"
said Tigger. There was a moment's silence, and then they heard him pattering off again. For a little longer they waited until the forest had become so still that it almost frightened them, and then Rabbit got up and stretched himself.
Well, there we are, just as I've said.
I've been thinking, and I think...
No, don't. Run. Come on.
And they all hurried off, Rabbit leading the way.
Now,
said Rabbit after they had gone a little way,
we can talk. What were you going to say, Pooh?
Nothing much. Why are we going along here?
Because it's the way home.
Oh,
I think it's more to the right,
said Piglet nervously.
What do you think, Pooh?
Pooh looked at his two paws. He knew that one of them was the right, and he knew that when you had decided which one of them was the right, then the other one was the left. But he could never remember how to begin.
Well, come on, I know it's this way.
They went on. 10 minutes later, they stopped again.
It's very silly, but just for the moment, of course, come on. Here we are,
Rabbit said 10 minutes later.
No, we're not. Now,
said Rabbit 10 minutes later.
I think we ought to be getting, or are we a little bit more to the right than I thought? It's a very funny thing,
said Rabbit 10 minutes later,
how everything looks the same in a mist. Have you noticed it, Pooh?
Pooh said that he had.
Lucky we know the forest so well, or we might get lost,
said Rabbit half an hour later, and he gave the careless laugh which you give when you know the forest so well that you can't get lost. Piglet sidled up to Pooh from behind.
Pooh,
he whispered.
Yes, Piglet. Nothing,
said Piglet, taking Pooh's paw.
I just wanted to be sure of you.
When Tigger had finished waiting for the others to catch up to him, and they hadn't, and when he had got tired of having nobody to say, "I say, come on," to, he thought he would go home. So he trotted back, and the first thing Kanga said when she saw him was, "There's a good Tigger. You've just in time for your strengthening medicine." She poured it out for him, and Roo said proudly,
"I've had mine."
And Tigger swallowed his and said,
"So have I."
And then he and Roo pushed each other about in a friendly way, and Tigger accidentally knocked over one or two chairs by accident, and Roo accidentally knocked over one on purpose, and Kanga said, "Now then, run along."
"Where shall we run along to?"
"You can go and collect some fir cones for me," said Kanga, giving them a basket. So they went to the 6 pine trees and threw fir cones at each other until they had forgotten what they came for, and they left the basket under the trees and went back to dinner. And it was just as they were finishing dinner that Christopher Robin put his head in at the door.
"Where's Pooh?"
he asked. "Tigger, dear, where's Pooh?" said Kanga. Tigger explained what had happened at the same time that Roo was explaining about his biscuit cough, and Kanga was telling them not both to talk at once, so it was some time before Christopher Robin guessed that Pooh and Piglet and Rabbit were all lost in the mist on the top of the forest.
It's a funny thing about Tiggers.
Oh, it's a funny thing about Tiggers, whispered Tigger to Roo, how Tiggers never get lost. Why don't they, Tigger? They just don't, explained Tigger. That's how it is.
Well, said Christopher Robin, we shall have to go and find them, that's all. Come on, Tigger.
I shall have to go and find them, explained Tigger to Roo. May I find them too?
I think not today, dear. Another day.
Well, if they're lost tomorrow, may I find them?
We'll see, said Kanga, and Roo, who knew what that meant, went into a corner and practiced jumping out at himself, partly because he wanted to practice this and partly because he didn't want Christopher Robin and Tigger to think that he minded when they went off without him.
The fact is, we've missed our way somehow, said Rabbit.
They were having a rest in a small sand pit on the top of the forest. Pooh was getting rather tired of that sand pit and suspected it of following them about, because whichever direction they started in, they always ended up at it, and each time, as it came through the mist at them, Rabbit said triumphantly,
"Now I know where we are,"
and Pooh said sadly,
"So do I."
and Piglet said nothing. He had tried to think of something to say, but the only thing he could think of was, "Help, help!" And that seemed as silly to say that when he had Pooh and Rabbit with him.
"Well,"
said Rabbit after a long silence in which nobody thanked him for the nice walk they were having,
"we'd better get on, I suppose. Which way should we try?"
How would it be if, as soon as we're out of sight of this pit, we try to find it again?"
"Well, what's the good of that?"
"Well, we keep looking for home and not finding it, so I thought that if we looked for this pit, we'd be sure not to find it, which would be a good thing, because then we might find something that we weren't looking for, which might be just what we were looking for."
"I don't see much sense in that."
"No," said Pooh humbly,
"There isn't, but there was going to be when I began it. It's just that something happened to it on the way."
"If I walked away from this pit and then walked back to it, of course I should find it."
"Well, I thought perhaps you wouldn't. I just thought—" "Try,"
said Piglet suddenly.
"We'll wait here for you."
Rabbit gave a laugh to show how silly Piglet was and walked into the mist. After he had gone 100 yards, he turned and walked back again, and after Pooh and Piglet had waited 20 minutes for him, Pooh got up.
"I just thought, now then, Piglet, let's go home." "But Pooh, do you know the way?"
"No, but there are 12 pots of honey in my cupboard, and they've been calling to me for hours. I couldn't hear them properly before because Rabbit would talk, but if nobody says anything except those 12 pots, I think, Piglet, I shall know where they're calling from. Come on." Ooh, you updated the last chapter. I take it that's, Raising the Last Monster? You've changed a name, added a scene, and most importantly, you've changed one of your curses. I see. They walked off together, and for a long time Piglet said nothing, so as not to interrupt the pots. And then suddenly he made a squeaky noise, an ooh noise, because now he began to know where he was, but he didn't dare say so out loud in case he wasn't. And just when he was getting so sure of himself that it didn't matter whether the pots went on calling or not, there was a shout in front of them, and out of the mist came Christopher Robin.
"Oh, there you are,"
said Christopher Robin carelessly, trying to pretend that he hadn't been anxious.
Here we are.
Where's Rabbit?
I don't know.
Oh, I expect Tigger will find him. He's sort of looking for you all.
Well, I've got to go home for something, and so has Piglet, because we haven't had it yet, and
I'll come and watch you,
said Christopher Robin. So he went home with Pooh and watched him for quite a long time, and all that time he was watching, Tigger was tearing round the forest, making loud yapping noises for Rabbit, and at last a very small and sorry rabbit heard him, and the small and sorry rabbit rushed through the mist at the noise, and it suddenly turned into Tigger, a friendly Tigger, a grand Tigger, a large and helpful Tigger, a Tigger who bounced, if he bounced at all, in just the beautiful way a Tigger ought to bounce.
"Oh, Tigger, I am glad to see you," cried Rabbit.
Tigger and Rabbit seem like the worst duo of all, and Necromancer is here for it. Well, I think Tigger has quite an affinity for Rabbit, as he does for all the members of the 100-Acre Woods. And I think Rabbit has a mild contempt for Tigger the same way he does for all the animals of the 100-Acre Wood. So, at the very least, their emotions for each other are quite consistent. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Chapter 8, in which Piglet does a very grand thing. Halfway between Pooh's house and Piglet's house was a thoughtful spot where they met sometimes when they had decided to go and see each other. And as it was warm and out of the wind, they would sit down there for a little and wonder what they would do now that they had seen each other. One day, when they had decided not to do anything, Pooh made up a verse about it, so one would know what the place was for.
This warm and sunny spot belongs to Pooh, and here he wonders what he's going to do. Oh bother, I forgot, it's Piglet's too.
Now one autumn morning, when the wind had blown all the leaves off the trees in the night, and was trying to blow the branches off, Pooh and Piglet were sitting in the thoughtful spot, and wondering.
What I think we'll go to Pooh Corner and see Eeyore, because perhaps his house has been blown down and perhaps he'd like us to build it again. What I think we'll go and see Christopher Robin, only he won't be there, so we can't. Let's go and see everybody, because when you've been walking in the wind 4 miles and you suddenly go into somebody's house and he says, "Hello, Pooh, you're just in time for a little smackerel of something," and you are, and then it's what I call a friendly day.
Making a song about not doing anything instead of doing anything else sounds like a great idea. Well, it sounds like a grand time to spend. Of course, any time you spend with a song is a decent enough time. Perhaps even a happy enough time, for songs are such happy things. Piglet thought that if they ought to have a reason for going to see everybody, like looking for Small or organizing an expedition, if Pooh could think of something. Pooh could. "We'll go because it's Thursday," he said, "and we'll go wish everybody a very happy Thursday. Come on, Piglet." They got up, and when Piglet had sat down again, because he didn't know the wind was so strong, and had been helped up by Pooh, they started off. They went to Pooh's house first, and luckily Pooh was at home just as they got there, so he asked them in, and they had some, and they went on to Kanga's house, holding on to each other and shouting, "Isn't it?" and "What?" and "I can't hear." By the time they got to Kanga's house, they were so buffeted that they stayed to lunch. Just at first, it seemed rather cold outside afterwards, so they pushed on to Rabbit's as quickly as they could. "We've come to wish you a very happy Thursday," said Pooh when he had gone in and out once or twice, just to make sure that he could get out again. I think he might be a little traumatized from the last time he got stuck at rabbits.
Why, what's going to happen on Thursday?
Asked Rabbit, and when Pooh had explained, and Rabbit, whose life was made up of important things, said,
Oh, I thought you'd really come about something.
they sat down for a little, and by Piglet and Pooh went on again. The wind was behind them now, so they didn't have to shout.
Rabbit's clever,
said Pooh thoughtfully.
Yes, Rabbit's clever.
And he has a brain.
Yes, Rabbit has a brain.
There was a long silence.
I suppose that's why he never understands anything.
Christopher Robin was at home by this time, because it was the afternoon, and he was so glad to see them because they stayed there until very nearly tea time, and then they had a very nearly tea, which is one you forget about afterwards, and hurried on to Pooh Corner, so as to see Eeyore before it was too late to have a proper tea with Owl. "Hello, Eeyore," they called out cheerfully.
Ah, lost your way?
We just came to see you, and to see how your house was. Look, Pooh, it's still standing.
I know. Very odd. Somebody ought to have come down and pushed it over.
We wondered whether the wind would blow it down, clarified Pooh.
Ah, that's why nobody's bothered, I suppose. I thought perhaps they'd forgotten.
Well, we're very glad to see you, Eeyore, and now we're going to see Owl.
That's right. You'll like Owl. He flew past a day or two ago and noticed me. He didn't actually say anything, mind you, but he knew it was me. Very friendly of him, I thought. Encouraging.
Pooh and Piglet shuffled about a little and said, "Well, goodbye, Eeyore," as lingeringly as they could. They had a long way to go and wanted to be getting on.
Goodbye. Mind you don't get blown away, little Piglet. You'd be missed. People would say, "Where's little Piglet been blown to?" Really wanting to know. Well, goodbye, and thank you for happening to pass me.
"Goodbye," said Pooh and Piglet for the last time, and they pushed on to Owl's house. The wind was against them now, and Piglet's ears streamed behind him like banners as he fought his way along, and it seemed hours before he got them into the shelter of the 100-acre wood, and they stood up straight again to listen, a little nervously, to the roaring of the gale among the treetops.
Supposing a tree fell down.
Supposing a tree fell down, Pooh, when we were underneath it?
Supposing it didn't, said Pooh after careful thought. Piglet was comforted by this, and in a little while they were knocking and ringing very cheerfully at Owl's door.
Hello, Owl. I hope we're not too late how are you, Owl? Piglet and I just came to see how you were, because it's Thursday. Sit down, Pooh, sit down.
Said,
Sit down, Pooh, sit down, Piglet, said Owl kindly. Make yourselves comfortable.
They thanked him and made themselves as comfortable as they could.
Because you see, Owl, we've been hurrying so as to make it in time so as to see you before we went away again.
Owl nodded solemnly.
Correct me if I am wrong, but am I right in supposing that it is a very blusterous day outside?
Very,
said Piglet, who was quietly thawing his ears and wishing he was safely back in his own house.
I thought so,
said Owl.
It was on just such a blusterous day as this that my Uncle Robert, a portrait of whom you can see upon the wall on your right, Piglet, while returning in the late afternoon from what's that?
There was a loud, cracking noise.
Look out, said Pooh. Mind the clock. Out of the way, Piglet. Piglet, I'm falling on you.
Help!
cried Piglet. Pooh's side of the room was slowly tilting upwards, and his chair began sliding down on Piglet's. The clock slithered gently along the mantelpiece, collecting vases along the way until they all crashed together on what had once been the floor, but was now trying to see what it looked like as a wall. Uncle Robert, who was going to be the new hearthrug, was bringing the rest of his wall with him as carpet, met Piglet's chair just as Piglet was expecting to leave it, and for a little while it became very difficult to remember which was really the north. Then there was another loud crack. Owl's room collected itself feverishly, and there was silence. In the corner of the room, the tablecloth began to wriggle. Then it wrapped itself into a ball and rolled across the room. Then it jumped up and down once or twice and put out 2 ears. It rolled again across the room and unwound itself. Okay, but if Piglet goes outside and blows away and becomes a flying pig, imagine all the stuff that would have to happen. Oh dear, I hadn't considered that a flying pig would indicate some manner of improbable things. I'm certain it would be a delight. What's the first thing you'd be looking forward to if pigs did indeed start flying, Necromancer?
Pooh?
Said Piglet nervously.
Yes,
Said one of the chairs.
Where are we?
I'm not quite sure.
Are we in Owl's house?
I think so, because we were just going to have tea and we hadn't had it.
Oh. Well, did Owl always have a letterbox in his ceiling?
Has he?
Yes, look.
I can't. I'm face downwards under something, and that Piglet is a very bad position for looking at ceilings.
Well, he has, Pooh.
Oh, perhaps he changed it, just for a change.
There was a disturbance behind the table and in the other corner of the room, and Owl was with them again.
Oh, Piglet,
Said Owl, looking very much annoyed.
where's Pooh?
I'm not quite sure.
I'm not quite sure.
Said Pooh. Owl turned at his voice and frowned at as much of Pooh as he could see.
Pooh, did you do that? No, I don't think so. Then who did?
I think it was the wind. I think your house has blown down.
Oh, is that it? Oh, is that it? I thought it was Pooh. No. If it was the wind,
Said Owl, considering the matter.
then it wasn't Pooh's fault. No blame can be attached to him. With these
kind words, he flew up to look at his new ceiling.
Piglet,
Called Pooh in a loud whisper. Piglet leant down to him.
Yes, Pooh?
what did he say was attached to me?
He said he didn't blame you.
Oh, I thought he meant... Oh, I see.
Owl, come down and help Pooh.
Owl, who was admiring his letterbox, flew down again. Together they pushed and pulled at the armchair, and in a little while Pooh came out from underneath and was able to look round him again.
Well, this is a nice state of things.
What are we going to do, Pooh? Can you think of anything?
Well, I had just thought of something. It was just a little thing I thought of.
And Pooh began to sing. First thing Necromancer would look for is a flying pig, if only because someone has to catch him. Oh, I do hope somebody catches the flying pig.
I lay on my chest and I thought it best to pretend I was having an evening rest. I lay on my tongue and I tried to hum, but nothing particular seemed to come. My face was flat on the floor and that is all very well for an acrobat, but it doesn't seem fair to a friendly bear to stiffen him out with a basket chair. And a sort of squoze which grows and grows is not too nice for his poor old nose. And and a sort of squitch is much too much for his neck and his mouth and his ears and such. That was all.
Owl coughed in an unadmiring sort of way, and said that if Pooh was sure that was all, they could now give their minds to the problem of escape.
Because we can't go out by what used to be the front door. Something's fallen on it.
But how else can you get out?
Asked Piglet anxiously.
That is the problem, Piglet, to which I am asking Pooh to give his mind.
Pooh sat on the floor that had once been a wall, and gazed up at the ceiling which had once been another wall, with a front door in it, which had once been a front door, and tried to give his mind to it.
Could you fly up to the letterbox?
Could you fly up to the letterbox with Piglet on your back?
No, he couldn't.
Owl explained about the necessary dorsal muscles. He had explained this to Pooh and Christopher Robin once before, and had been waiting ever since for a chance to do it again, because it is a thing which you can easily explain twice before anybody knows what you are talking about.
Because you see, Owl, if we could get Piglet into the letterbox, he might squeeze through the place where the letters come and climb down the tree and run for help.
Piglet said hurriedly that he had been getting bigger lately and couldn't possibly much as he would like to, and Owl said that he had had his letterbox made larger lately in case he got bigger letters, so perhaps Piglet might. And Piglet said,
But you said the necessary you-know-whats wouldn't.
And Owl said,
No, they won't, so it's no good thinking about it.
And Piglet said,
Then we'd better think of something else.
And began to at once. Honestly, this is why we have building codes. Owl should know that, and next time build your house up to code. Well, what are the housing codes in the 100-Acre Wood, Necromancer? But Pooh's mind had gone back to the day when he had saved Piglet from the flood, and everybody had admired him so much, and as that didn't often happen, he thought he would just like it to happen again. And suddenly, just as it had come before, an idea came to him. Delta Free, hello and welcome in. Thank you for the head pats. You are a wonderful being yourself, and it's good to have you here with us.
Owl,
said Pooh,
I have thought of something. Astute and helpful bear,
said Owl. Pooh looked proud at being called a stout and helpful bear, and said modestly that he just happened to think of it. You tied a piece of string to Piglet, and you flew up to the letterbox with the other end in your beak, and you pushed it through the wire, and brought it down to the floor. And when you and Pooh pulled hard at this end, and Piglet went slowly up at the other end, and there you were.
And there Piglet is, if the string doesn't break.
Supposing it does?
Asked Piglet, wanting to know.
Then we try another piece of string.
First building code, all doors must fit one standard Pooh Bear. I'm sure Rabbit would love that code. Or at least Pooh would enjoy it when visiting Rabbit. This was not very comforting to Piglet, because however many pieces of string they tried pulling up with, it would always be the same hymn coming down. But still, it did seem the only thing to do. So with one last look back in his mind at all the happy hours he had spent in the forest not being pulled up to the ceiling by a piece of string, Piglet nodded bravely at Pooh and said it was a very clever clever plan.
It won't break, whispered Pooh comfortingly, because you're a small animal, and I'll stand underneath, and if you save us all, it will be a very grand thing to talk about afterwards, and perhaps I'll make up a song, and people will say, it was so grand what Piglet did, that a respectful Pooh song was made about it.
Piglet felt much better after this, and when everything was ready, he found himself slowly going up to the ceiling. He was so proud that he would have called out,
Look at me!
if he hadn't been afraid that Pooh and Owl would let go of their end of the string and look at him.
Up we go,
said Pooh cheerfully.
The ascent is proceeding as expected,
said Owl, helpfully. Soon it was over. Piglet opened the letterbox and climbed in. Then, having untied himself, he began to squeeze into the slit through which, in the old days, when the front doors were front doors, many an unexpected letter that W.O.L. had written to himself had come slipping. He squeezed and he squoze. And then, with one last squeeze, he was out. Happy and excited, he turned round to squeak a last message to the prisoners.
It's all right.
He called through the letterbox.
Your tree is blown right over, Owl, and there's a branch across the door, but Christopher Robin and I can move it, and we'll bring a rope for Pooh, and I'll go and tell him now, and I can climb down quite easily. I mean, it's dangerous, but I can do it all right, and Christopher Robin and I will be back in about half an hour. Goodbye, Pooh.
And without waiting to hear Pooh's answering, "Goodbye and thank you, Piglet," he was off.
Half an hour,
said Owl, setting himself comfortably.
That will just give me time to finish that story I was telling you about my Uncle Robert, a portrait of whom you see underneath you. Now let me see, where was I? Oh yes, it was on just such a blusterous day as this that my Uncle Robert...
Pooh closed his eyes. How goes it? Having fun reading? I am having a lot of fun reading. I think it's always a good time when we get to read. And the Winnie the Pooh books are such fun, it's so simple and yet it's so delightful. I don't think there's anything that I could easily compare it to. The imagination and the charm that was put into these stories is something that really warms my heart. And so I'm really glad to get to share that with everybody too. How are you doing, Delta Free? Are you enjoying the story? What have you been up to? Chapter 9, in which Eeyore finds the owlery and Owl moves into it. Necromancer also loves how whimsical the writing is. Yes! And that's so much fun. Pooh had wandered into the 100-acre wood and was standing in front of what had once been Owl's house. It didn't look at all like a house now, it looked like a tree which had been blown down. And as soon as a house looks like that, it is time you tried to find another one. Pooh had a mysterious message underneath his front door that morning saying,
I am searching for a new house for Owl, so had you, Rabbit.
And while he was wondering what it meant, Rabbit had come in and read it for him.
I'm leaving one for all the others,
said Rabbit,
and telling them what it means, and they'll all search too. I'm in a hurry. Goodbye.
And he had run off. You're doing fine? You've been unwell all weekend? Oh no! I'm sorry that you were unwell this weekend. I hope you're feeling better now, given you said you're doing fine. But I'm sorry that you were feeling unwell. And yes, thank you. It is a good time. Pooh followed slowly. He had something better to do than find a new house for Owl. He had to make up a Pooh song about the old one, because he had promised Piglet days and days ago that he would, and whenever he and Piglet had met since, Piglet didn't actually say anything, but you knew at once why he didn't. If anybody mentioned hums or trees or string or storms in the night, Piglet's nose went all pink at the tip and he talked about something quite different in a hurried sort of way.
But it isn't easy,
said Pooh to himself as he looked at what had been Owl's house,
because poetry and hums aren't things which you get, they're things which get you. And all you can do is go where they can find you.
He waited hopefully.
Well,
said Pooh after a long wait,
I shall begin, "Here lies a tree," because it does, and then I'll see what happens.
and this is what happens.
Here lies a tree which Owl, a bird, was fond of when it stood on end, and Owl was talking to a friend, called me in case you hadn't heard, when something occurred. For lo, the wind was blusterous, and flattened out his favorite tree, and things looked bad for him and we. Looked bad, I mean, for he and us. I've never known them worse. Then Piglet thought a thing. "Courage," he said, "there's always hope. I want a thinnish piece of rope, or if there isn't any, bring a thickish piece of string." So to the letter box he rose, while Pooh and Owl said "oh" and hum, and where the letters always come, called letters only, Piglet grows, his head and then his toes. "Oh, gallant Piglet, Piglet, ho! Did Piglet tremble? Did he blinch? No, no, he struggled inch by inch through letters only, as I know, because I saw him go. He ran, and then he stood and shouted, 'Help for Owl, a bird, and Pooh, a bear,' until he heard the others coming through the wood as quickly as they could. 'Help, help, and rescue!' Piglet cried, and showed the others where to go. Sing ho for Piglet, Piglet ho! And soon the door was opened wide, and we were both outside. Sing ho for Piglet, ho! Ho!
"So there it is," said Pooh when he had sung this to himself 3 times.
"It's come different from what I thought it would, but it's come. Now I must go and sing it to Piglet."
Pooh going, "My art or song is more important than shelter," proves he's a true artist. It's true. Pooh does seem to suffer for his art in his own way. I also know what it's like to intend to do art for a friend and then get art blocked. It happens often. But that's alright. That's alright. "I am searching for a new house for Owl, so had you, Rabbit,"
"What's all this?"
Rabbit explained.
"What's the matter with his old house?"
Asked Eeyore, and Rabbit explained.
"Nobody tells me. Nobody keeps me informed. I make it 17 days come Friday since anyone spoke to me.
"It certainly isn't 17 days.
Come Friday."
And today's Saturday, so that would make it 11 days. And I was here myself a week ago."
"Not conversing. Not first one and then the other. You said hello and flashed past. I saw your tail in the distance as I was meditating my reply. I had thought of saying, 'What?' But of course, it was then too late."
"Well, I was in a hurry,"
"No give and take.
Eeyore went on.
No exchange of thoughts. Hello, what? I mean, it gets you nowhere, particularly if the other person's tail is only just in sight for the second half of the conversation."
"It's your fault, Eeyore. You've never been to see any of us.
You just stay here in this one corner of the forest waiting for others to come to you. Why don't you go to them sometimes?" Eeyore was silent for a little while, thinking.
"There may be something in what you say, Rabbit,"
he said at last.
"I must move about more. I must come and go."
"That's right, Eeyore. Drop in on any of us at any time when you feel like it."
"Thank you, Rabbit. And if anybody says in a loud voice, 'Bother, it's Eeyore,' I can drop out again."
Rabbit stood on one leg for a moment.
"Well, I must be going."
"Goodbye."
"What? Oh, goodbye. And if you do come across a house for Owl, you must let us know,"
"I will give my mind to it,"
said Eeyore. Rabbit went. Pooh had found Piglet, and they were walking back to the 100-acre wood together.
"Piglet,"
said Pooh a little shyly after they had walked for some time without saying anything,
Yes, Pooh?
"do you remember when I said that a respectful Pooh song might be written about you-know-what?"
Did you, Pooh?"
said Piglet, getting a little pink round the nose.
Oh, yes, I believe you did."
"It's been written, Piglet."
The pink went slowly up Piglet's nose to his ears and settled there.
Has it, Pooh?
He said huskily.
About that time when... Do you mean really written?"
"Yes, Piglet."
The tips of Piglet's ears glowed suddenly, and he tried to say something, but even after he had husked once or twice, nothing came out. So Pooh went on.
"There are 7 verses in it."
7?
Said Piglet as carelessly as he could.
You don't often get 7 verses in a hum, do you, Pooh?
"Never. I don't suppose it's ever been heard of before."
Do the others know yet?"
Asked Piglet, stopping for a moment to pick up a stick and throw it away.
"No. And I wondered which you would like best, for me to hum it now, or to wait till we find the others, and then hum it to all of you."
Piglet thought for a little.
I think what I'd like best, Pooh, is I'd like you to hum it to me now, and then hum it to all of us, because then everybody would hear it, but I would say, 'Oh yes, Pooh stole me,' and pretend not to be listening."
So Pooh hummed it to him, all the 7 verses, and Piglet said nothing but just stood and glowed. Never before had anyone sung "Ho" for Piglet, Piglet, ho, all by himself. When it was over, he wanted to ask for one of the verses over again, but didn't quite like to. It was the verse beginning, "Oh, gallant Piglet," and it seemed to him a very thoughtful way of beginning a piece of poetry.
"Did I really do all that?"
No. Did I really do all that?
He said at last.
"Well, in poetry, in a piece of poetry, well, you did it, Piglet, because the poetry says you did, and that's how people know."
Oh, because I thought I did blinch a little, just at first, and it said, did he blinch? No, that's why.
"You only blinched inside, and that's the bravest way for a very small animal not to blinch that there is."
Piglet sighed with happiness and began to think about himself. He was brave! When they got to Owl's old house, they found everybody there except Eeyore. Christopher Robin was telling them what to do, and Rabbit was telling them again directly afterward, in case they hadn't heard, and then they were all doing it. They had got a rope and were pulling Owl's chairs and pictures and things out of his old house, so as to be ready to put them into his new one. Kanga was down below, trying things on, and calling out to Owl, "You won't want this dirty old dishcloth anymore, will you? And what about this carpet? It's all in holes." And Owl was calling back indignantly,
Of course I do. It's just a question of arranging the furniture properly. And it isn't a dishcloth, it's my shawl.
Every now and then, Rue fell in and came back on the rope with the next article, which flustered Kanga a little because she never knew where to look for him. So she got cross with Owl and said that his house was a disgrace, all damp and dirty, and it was quite time it did tumble down. Look at that horrid bunch of toadstools growing out on the floor there. So Owl looked down, a little surprised because he didn't know about this, and then gave a short, sarcastic laugh and explained that that was his sponge, and that if people didn't know a perfectly ordinary bath sponge when they saw it, things were coming to a pretty pass.
Well,
said Kanga, and Rue fell in quickly crying. I must see Owl's sponge. Oh, there it is. Oh, Owl, it isn't a sponge, it's a spudge. Did you know what a spudge is, Owl? It's when your sponge gets all... And Kanga said, Rue, dear, very quickly, because it's not the way to talk to anybody who can spell Tuesday. Kanga looking at this like a yard sale, going full mom mode. I mean, that's part of the fun of Kanga, and we really don't get to see very much of her in these books, but it's delightful to let her let loose a little. But they were all quite happy when Pooh and Piglet came along, and they stopped working in order to have a little rest and listen to Pooh's new song. So then they all told Pooh how good it was, and Piglet said carelessly,
it is good, isn't it? I mean, as a song.
And what about the new house? Asked Pooh. Have you found it, Owl?
He's found a name.
He's found a name for it, said Christopher Robin, lazily nibbling at a piece of grass. So now all he wants is the house.
I am calling it this,
said Owl importantly, and he showed them what he had been making. It was a square piece of board with the name of the house painted on it, the Wallery. It was at this exciting moment that something came through the trees and bumped into Owl. The board fell to the ground, and Piglet and Rue bent over it eagerly.
Oh, it's you,
said Owl crossly. Hello, Eeyore. There you are. Where have you been? Eeyore took no notice of them.
Good morning, Christopher Robin,
he said, brushing away Rue and Piglet and sitting down on the Wallery.
Are we alone?
Yes, said Christopher Robin, smiling to himself.
I've been told the news has worked through to my corner of the forest, the damp bit down on the right which nobody wants, that a certain person is looking for a house. I have found one for him.
Ah, well done, said Rabbit kindly. Eeyore looked round slowly at him, and then turned back to Christopher Robin. It's a Wallery, not a flurry, Eeyore. Hey! You're not wrong. It's supposed to be an owlery, but the W-O-L is how we spell owl in this book.
We have been joined by something,
Eeyore said in a loud whisper.
But no matter, we can leave it behind. If you come with me, Christopher Robin, I will show you the house.
Christopher Robin jumped up. Come on, Pooh, he said. Come on, Tigger, said Rue. Shall we go, Owl? Said Rabbit.
Oh, wait a moment,
said Owl, picking up his notice board, which had just come back into sight. Eeyore waved them back.
Christopher Robin and I are going for a short walk, not a jostle. If he likes to bring Pooh and Piglet with him, I shall be glad of their company, but one must be able to breathe.
That's all right, said Rabbit, rather glad to be left in charge of something. We'll go on getting the things out. Now then, Tigger, where's that rope? What's the matter, Owl? Owl, who had just discovered that his new address was the Smudge, coughed at Eeyore sternly, but said nothing, and Eeyore, with most of the owlry behind him, marched off with his friends. So in a little while they came to the house which Eeyore had found, and for some minutes before they came to it, Piglet was nudging Pooh, and Pooh was nudging Piglet, and they were saying, "It is," and
"It can't be,"
and "It is really," to each other. And when they got there, it really was.
"There,"
said Eeyore proudly, stopping them outside Piglet's house.
"and the name on it and everything."
"Oh!" cried Christopher Robin, wondering whether to laugh or what.
"Just the house for Owl. Don't you think so, little Piglet?"
And then Piglet did a noble thing. And he did it in a sort of dream while he was thinking of all the wonderful words Pooh had hummed about him.
"Yes, just the sort of house for Owl,"
he said grandly.
"And I hope he'll be very happy in it."
And then he gulped twice, because he had been very happy in it himself.
"What do you think, Christopher Robin?"
What do you think, Christopher Robin?
asked Eeyore a little anxiously, feeling that something wasn't quite right. Christopher Robin had a question to ask first, and he was wondering how to ask it.
"Well, it's a very nice house, and if your own house is blown down, you must go somewhere else, mustn't you, Piglet? What would you do if your house was blown down?"
Before Piglet could think, Pooh answered for him.
"He'd come and live with me,"
said Pooh.
"Wouldn't you, Piglet?"
Piglet squeezed his paw.
"Thank you, Pooh.
said Piglet.
I should love to."
Oh, hello, Rinsler. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. A very nostalgic bit of literature we've got. Yes, it's... I never got a chance to actually read this one when I was little, but it is so wonderful, the whimsy and the imagination and the unabashedness that goes along with these stories. And it's so fun to see the dynamic of these characters playing out in a way that I don't think has really been captured by a lot of the derivatives. So I'm quite enjoying this, and I'm having a lot of fun. And we've come to the final chapter. Oh my goodness, hello Raiders, welcome in. Well, Rinsler, thank you for joining us, and welcome in. 24/11, let's get you shouted out. Welcome, Raiders. Slevin, what were you up to here? Hope you're all having fun. For those not already familiar with me, my name is Slane Heidelman. I am primarily a storytime streamer, and we are reading Winnie the Pooh's second book, The House at Pooh Corner. It is going very well, but we are almost to the final chapter. How goes the reading? I am enjoying it. How was yours, though, Slevin? What were you up to? I believe the last time I'd checked in on you, you were reading something as well, but I can't for the life of me remember what it was. For somebody currently neck-deep in writing fantasy, there's a deep level of timelessness that the old stories have that we seem to have lost, and you only hope to replicate it. Well, I would love to take a look at some of what you've done and get a chance to see how you replicate it, or what you aim for yourself. I think timelessness is something that can always be striven for, but it fascinates me what does get held onto and what doesn't. You're on day 1 of 3 Men in a Boat, to say nothing of the dog, by Jerome K. Jerome, and you're loving the style so far? I am not familiar with that one. What is it like? as always, when you're coming in from a raid, if you do need to raid and run and take care of yourself after stream, I understand, but you're also very welcome to stick around, and I hope you're having a wonderful time with it. So, yeah, by all means, would you like to tell us a little bit about what the story is and what you're enjoying with it? I know you said the style is good, but what style are they writing in? We are building Owl a new home, and Kanga is trying to snatch stuff up and questioning Owl's bachelor lifestyle. This is mostly true. I don't think we're going to be building a new house for Owl. I think he is moving into Piglet's house, which is interesting because a Piglet was very fond of his house, and makes reference in the first book to it being his grandfather's. So, let's see here. Yeah, we'll let that through. Going to throw a follow. You're but a fellow with a suit of gothic plate mail and a fascination for machinery. Those are both delightful things, though. You likely to have little utility here? Oh, well, you don't need to be anything in order to be enjoyed and appreciated here. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, we're happy to share those passions. And I hope that you feel comfortable sharing plenty of those passions too, especially since, like, Gothic plate armor sounds really cool, and I haven't gotten to see nearly enough of it, so I definitely would appreciate more there. And a fascination for machinery is a good thing too. Okay, so, Three Men in a Boat, and Say Nothing of the Dog, has very dry humor, with brief glimpses of excellent poetic ramblings. Ooh. This does sound fun. I'll have to take a look at what you're... if you have your VOD up, I'll definitely have to take a peek at that later. That sounds like a good time. But yeah, so thank you for the follow, Rinsler. And we come to the final chapter of this book, Chapter 10, in which Christopher Robin and Pooh come to an enchanted place, and we leave them there. Christopher Robin was going away. Nobody knew why he was going. Nobody knew where he was going. Indeed, nobody even knew why he knew that Christopher Robin was going away. But somehow or other, everybody in the forest felt that it was happening at last. Even smallest of all, a friend and relation of Rabbit's, who thought he had once seen Christopher Robin's foot, but couldn't be quite sure because it was something else perhaps, even S of A, told himself that things were going to be different. Late and early, two other friends and relations of Rabbit's said, "Well, early," and "Well, late," to each other in such a hopeless sort of way that it really didn't seem any good waiting for the answer. You're glad too? Your set of armor is from 1480 to 1540, a remake of surviving examples from the Holy Roman Empire, which was neither holy nor Roman and really not much of an empire. It was indeed. The full set is articulated, meaning it has interlocking pieces of metal, clocking in at 66 pounds of solid 1060 carbon steel. That is some serious engineering, and very cool. Oh my goodness. I would love to see more of it at some point. And good to know that it's the Holy Roman Empire make that you modeled it off of. One day, when he felt that he couldn't wait any longer, Rabbit brained out a notice, and this is what it said. "Notice of a meeting of everybody will meet at the house of Pooh Corner to pass a resolution by order keep to the left signed Rabbit." He had to write this out 2 or 3 times before he could get the resolution to look like what he thought it was going to when he began to spell it, but when at last he was finished, he took it round to everybody and read it out to them, and they all said they would come. "Well," said Eeyore that afternoon when he saw them all walking up to his house, "this is a surprise. Am I asked too?"
Don't mind Eeyore, whispered Rabbit to Pooh. I told him all about it this morning.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yes, let's, you're more than welcome to reach out. Happy to have you along for that, and, yeah, definitely feel free to reach out on Discord there. I'd be delighted. Everybody said, "How do you do?" to Eeyore, and Eeyore said that he didn't, not to notice, and then they sat down. And as soon as they were all sitting down, Rabbit stood up again.
We all know why we're here, but I have asked my friend Eeyore.
That's me. Grand.
I have asked him to propose a resolution.
And he sat down again.
Now then, Eeyore,
he said.
Don't bustle me,
said Eeyore, getting up slowly.
Don't now then me.
He took a piece of paper from behind his ear and unfolded it.
Nobody knows anything about this. This is a surprise.
He coughed in an important way and began again.
Whatnots and etceteras before I begin, or perhaps I should say, before I end, I have a piece of poetry to read to you. Hitherto, a long word meaning, well, you'll see what it means directly. Hitherto, as I was saying, all the poetry in the forest has been written by Pooh, a bear with a pleasing manner, but a positively startling lack of brain. The poem which I am now about to read to you was written by Eeyore, or myself, in a quiet moment. If somebody will take Roo's bullseye away from him and wake up Owl, we shall all be able to enjoy it. I call it Poem. This was it. Christopher Robin is going, at least I think he is. Where? Nobody knows, but he is going, he goes, to rhyme with nose. Do we care? To rhyme with where? We do, very much. I haven't got a rhyme for that is in the second line yet. Bother. Now I haven't got a rhyme for bother. Bother. Those two bothers will have to rhyme with each other. Bother. The fact is, this is more difficult than I thought. I ought, very good indeed, I ought to begin again, but it is easier to stop. Christopher Robin, goodbye. And all your friends, all your friend, very awkward this is, it keeps going wrong. Well, anyhow, we send our love, and if anybody wants to clap,
said Eeyore when he had read all of this,
now is the time to do it.
They all clapped.
Thank you,
said Eeyore.
Unexpected and gratifying, if a little lacking in smack.
It's much better than mine, Pooh said admiringly, and he really thought it was.
Well,
explained Eeyore modestly,
it was meant to be.
The resolution, said Rabbit, is that we all sign it and take it to Christopher Robin.
And here we see the signatures. Pooh, Owl, Eeyore, Rabbit, Kanga, a blot for Tigger, and a smudge for Roo. So it was signed Pooh, Piglet, Owl, Eeyore, Rabbit, Kanga, Blot, Smudge, and they all went off to Christopher Robin's house with it. Hello, everybody. Hello, Pooh, said Christopher Robin. They all said hello and felt awkward and unhappy suddenly because it was a sort of goodbye they were saying, and they didn't want to think about it. So they stood around and waited for somebody else to speak, and they nudged each other and said, "Go on." And eventually, Eeyore was nudged to the front, and the others crowded behind him.
What is it, Eeyore?
asked Christopher Robin. Eeyore swished his tail from side to side so as to encourage himself, and began,
Christopher Robin, we've come to give you, it's written by, but we've all, because we've heard, we all know, well, you see, that to put it as shortly as possible is what it is.
He turned around angrily to the others and said,
Everybody crowds round so in this forest, there's no space. I never saw a more spreading lot of animals in my life, and all in the wrong places. Can't you see that Christopher Robin wants to be alone? I'm going.
And Eeyore humphed off. Not quite knowing why, the others began edging away, and when Christopher Robin had finished reading the poem and was looking up to say, "Thank you," there was only Pooh left. "It's a comforting sort of thing to have," said Christopher Robin, folding up the paper and putting it in his pocket.
"Come on, Pooh."
He walked off quickly.
"Where are we going?"
said Pooh, hurrying after Christopher Robin and wondering whether it was to be an explorer or a what shall I do about you-know-what.
"Nowhere,"
said Christopher Robin. So they began going there, and after they had walked a little way, Christopher Robin said,
"What do you like doing best in the world, Pooh?"
"Well, what I like best," and then he had to stop and think, because although eating honey was a very good thing to do, there was a moment just before you began to eat it which was better than when you were, but he didn't know what it was called. And then he thought that being with Christopher Robin was a very good thing to do, and having Piglet near was a very friendly thing to have. And so, when he had thought it all out, he said,
"What I like best in the world is me and Piglet going to see you, and you saying, 'What about a little something?' and me saying, 'Well, I shouldn't mind a little something, should you, Piglet?' and it being a hummy sort of day outside and birds singing."
"I like that too. But what I like doing best is nothing."
"How do you do nothing?"
asked Pooh after he had wondered for a long time.
"Well, it's when people call out at you just as you're going off to do it. 'What are you going to do, Christopher Robin?' And you say, 'Oh, nothing,' and then you go and do it."
"Oh, I see," said Pooh.
"This is a sort of thing that we're doing now."
"Oh, I see."
"It means just going along, listening to all the things you can't hear, and not bothering."
"Oh." They walked on, thinking of this and that, and by they came to an enchanted place on the very top of the forest, called Galleon's Lap, which is 60-something trees in a circle, and Christopher Robin knew that it was enchanted because nobody had ever been able to count whether it was 63 or 64, not even when he tied a piece of string around each tree after he had counted it. Being enchanted, its floor was not like the floor of the forest, gorse and bracken and heather, but close-set grass, quiet and smooth and green. It was the only place in the forest where you could sit down carelessly without getting up again almost at once and looking for somewhere else. Sitting there, they could see the whole spread of the world until it reached the sky, and whatever there was all the world over was with them in Galleon's lap. Suddenly, Christopher Robin began to tell Pooh about some of the things people called kings and queens, and something called factors, and a place called Europe, and an island in the middle of the sea where no ships came, and how you make a suction pump, if you want to, and when knights were knighted, and what comes from Brazil. Pooh is back against one of the 60-something trees, and his paws folded in front of him, said, "Oh," and "I didn't know," and thought about how wonderful it would be to have a real brain which could tell you things. And by, Christopher Robin came to an end of the things, and was silent, and he sat there looking out over the world and wishing it wouldn't stop. But Pooh was thinking too, and he said suddenly to Christopher Robin, "Isn't it a very grand thing to be an afternoon, what you said?" "A what?" said Christopher Robin lazily as he listened to something else. "On a horse," explained Pooh. "A knight?" "Oh, was that it? I thought it was is it as grand as a king and factors and all the other things you said?" "Well, it's not as grand as a king," said Christopher Robin, and then, as Pooh seemed disappointed, he added quickly, "But it's grander than factors." "Could a bear be one?" "Of course you could," said Christopher Robin. "I'll make you one." And he took a stick and touched Pooh on the shoulder and said, "Rise, Sir Pooh de Bear, most faithful of all my knights." So Pooh rose and sat down and said, "Thank you," which is the proper thing to say when you have been made a knight, and he went into a dream again, in which he and Sir Pomp and Sir Brazil and factors lived together with a horse, and were faithful knights, all except factors who looked after the horse, to good King Christopher Robin. And every now and then he shook his head and said to himself, "I'm not getting it right." Then he began to think of all the things Christopher Robin would want to tell him when he came back from wherever he was going to, and how muddling it would be for a bear of very little brain to try and get them right in his mind. "So perhaps," he said sadly to himself, "Christopher Robin won't tell me any more." And he wondered if being a faithful knight meant you just went on being faithful without being told things. Then suddenly again, Christopher Robin, who was still looking at the world with his chin in his hands, called out, "Pooh?" "Yes." "When Pooh?" "Yes, Christopher Robin." "I'm not going to do nothing any more." "Never again?" "Well, not so much. They don't let you." Pooh waited for him to go on, but he was silent again. "Yes, Christopher Robin?" said Pooh helpfully. "Pooh, you know, when I'm not doing nothing, will you come up here sometimes?" "Just me?" "Yes, Pooh." "Will you be here too?" "Yes, Pooh, I will be really. I promise I will be, Pooh." "That's good," said Pooh. "Pooh, promise you won't forget about me, ever. Not even when I'm 100. Pooh thought for a little. "How old shall I be then?" 99. Pooh nodded. "I promise," he said. Still with his eyes on the world, Christopher Robin put out his hand and felt for Pooh's paw. "Pooh," said Christopher Robin earnestly, if I'm not quite—" He stopped and tried again. "Pooh, whatever happens, you will understand, won't you?" "Understand what?" "Oh, nothing." He laughed and jumped to his feet. "Come on." "Where?" said Pooh. anywhere," said Christopher Robin. So they went off together. But wherever they go, and whatever happens to them on the way, in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. And so we come to the end of the house at Pooh Corner. Thank you all so much for staying with me through this, for spending your time here with me and choosing to enjoy this story once more. We are actually reaching just at the end of time here too. It is a wonderful story, Necromancer, and I hope you've all gotten a chance to enjoy it as well. I sort of 24/11, thank you very much for the applause. I appreciate it. I think it is always a little bit sad to come to an ending, but you got here late, a great study in traditional storytelling. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Oh my goodness. I started reading this book here knowing that there's been a lot of difficult stuff out there in the world. And I am glad that, even if only for a little while, we've gotten to be in a nice, comfortable place with these silly, fun, charming characters. And I hope that that same little bit of joy and peace has found its way to every one of you. The ending of a story always provides a sense of closure. It does. And I think that is one of the things that I really do believe very strongly. Stories have ends. They have beginnings, they have middles, and everything in its own way becomes a story. Without endings, without beginnings, where are we really? So, I hope you've enjoyed this story too. Thank you very much for joining me. Let's see about finding somebody to raid here, and I will try to figure out for next time a new story to share with everyone. A story without an ending is just merchandise? You're not wrong. And anybody who sells you a story without an end is definitely trying to sell you something. Oh my. Let's see what we've got here. I'm just going to make sure I've got my chat where I can see it. There we go. There. Now you can stay with me. Well, I'm glad you've sent that request over, and I will be looking forward to interacting with you more over there. Let's see, where is my always on top that I need? Oh my goodness. Here we are. Oh, it won't let me put it always on top. That's disappointing. Well, all the same, I'll just have to keep checking over. In the meanwhile, let's see. Who do we have? which has quite a few recommendations. And I'm never sure which of them is going to be ideal. But I suppose it ultimately matters little. We'll find our way by and by. Alright. I think we'll try this one here. This seems interesting. They are doing some beta reading, it says. So let's go take a look at what this individual is doing. I'm glad you've joined our stream today. Stream here ends the stream here. But it's time to go our separate ways. Yes, it's time to end the stream here. Stream here ends the stream here. Oh, stream here ends the stream here. For the software's scuffed and the bit rate's low, and it's time to end the stream here. Until next time, I'll be waiting.